If you want to know my strategies and tips for public speaking, you have to tune into this episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome, all new listeners, and welcome back to those who have my content in the past. If you want to know my strategies and tips for public speaking, you have to tune into this episode. Before I go on to the podcast, what is new in life? If you can't tell, I've lost my voice, and so bear with me. But I'm coming with a lot of fire today. So those of you who've listened to my podcast in the past, this is going to be a fire one because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about all my podcasts, but today I am sharing everything about public speaking. So I'm absolutely fired up. I'll tell you more about a story of if you're on YouTube and what I'm wearing and why. But what's happening with life? I have to celebrate something. I haven't told a lot of people this, but I'm very proud of my son. This is a proud dad moment. So my son last week on Wednesday or Thursday last week, he comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Dad, I want to what did he say? I He likes drawing, and he's 6, mind you. He says, I want to sell my drawings, Dad." I said, "Wait, you want to sell your paper drawings of like animals and dinosaurs?" He says, "Yeah." And so what he does is he gets all these booklets together. He does like 12, 15 different pages, and we bought this little binder, and he puts it in there. He says, "I'm going to sell my book, Dad." I said, "Okay, I mean, that sounds fun." And he goes, "No, I'm going to sell it to the neighbors." I said, "Yeah, right. Go ahead, do whatever you want." So we're getting dinner ready, and I can't find him. And my wife and I are looking around. We're like, "Hey, where's he at? Where's Zach?" And we can't find him or my daughter. So we find out he's gone for about 20 minutes, and he went to all our neighbors with his sister and his art, and he went door to door. We probably have, I don't know, 20 something people in our neighborhood, and he came back with $23. He sold artwork of his for I think he tried to sell them at $5 a piece, and people gave him $1 just to go away. So very proud of him. And then he took it another step. The next day, he says, "Dad, I want to sell lemonade." So we go buy him lemons, and he sits out front, and he sells lemonade for $1 a piece, and he made $21. So very proud of him. I'm proud of that moment. And that's not me, not my wife. He literally did this on his own. So I'm very proud of Zach. He did an awesome job. My daughter's doing great. Wife is awesome. And little Jacob is growing so fast. He's not a little boy anymore. So, but it's great. It's been great. So I'm doing great. I'm on fire with many, many projects. I have my first mentorship call with a lot of you listeners who are in the program. So I'm excited to catch up with you guys next Thursday, first week of May. So excited to have you guys on there. Yeah, so on to this podcast. I lost my voice, and it was already going down when I did this. So if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, I'm wearing a polo. I don't usually wear polos, and there's stories behind this, but I'm wearing a polo today because I had to do a presentation. I love public speaking. If you've ever heard my content, my podcast, I absolutely adore it. Like I love it. I'm so passionate about it. And it's not even like a skill I want to get better at. It's just I don't even care. I just love helping people, influencing people, helping people understand it in a different way, teaching, coaching, whatever you want to call it, mentoring. I just love doing it, and I hope that it comes across in my audio, my video, my body language, everything that I do. I'm just very passionate about it. So, why am I doing this podcast? Well, I get this question often, and I got this on Instagram recently. And someone asked, "Hey, so what do you do for your public speaking?" I'll answer a couple questions. Did I develop the skill? Have I had it? Where did I start? What are the big things that have worked for me? So I have a couple things. I have 4 big things I'll share with you, and it comes off of my public speaking presentation that I did today. This was to a local law enforcement agency, and I was just talking about injury prevention. And gosh, I think injury prevention is where we are going to go as a profession. I think we want it, but we just don't know how to offer it to our local communities. And I think your public speaking skills is a very, very big piece of this. So the reason why I'm sharing all this is, one, I'm coming off of a huge public speaking event today. I'm very passionate about it, and I've had enough questions that I'll do a whole episode on all the strategies that I use on a regular basis to make sure that my audience and the people I'm supporting are grasping, what I'm trying to bring on. Nobody wants to waste time, and when you're on public speaking, that's time, right? It's time lost to you, it's time lost to the attendee, and everybody wants to make the best of that time. So making an entertaining, educational environment is very, very critical. And even to this day, I have done this. I've probably done over, I don't know, 1,000 events in some capacity, courses, classes. I've been a adjunct faculty. I've been a residency faculty, a mentor, whatever it is. And out of all these things, I've learned so much, and it's only because I take every opportunity to do public speaking, and every single time, even today, I picked up a little small thing that I should have done. I could have tweaked, and every single time, every audience is different. The size, the topic, and everything else, and the environment so different. So there's a lot to take away from today. And if you want to get better at public speaking, this is fantastic for you. Or you're like, I'm great at public speaking, but I can use little things here and there to fine tune. Awesome. And I had a discussion with a physical therapist that I mentor. They asked me a good question. They said, "Hey, Chris, I'm having a hard time get this message across to people, right? Whether it's your patients or your clients or athletes or whatever it is. And I keep saying the same thing different ways." I said, "It's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And they're just not digesting what you're saying. And it's only because you're using the words. The words are not the problem. It's the way you're making them feel. It's the outcome. It's everything else around it." And I'll explain more on what I mean by that. But ultimately, I'm excited to give you tips. I love public speaking. I'm wearing a polo, which I don't wear very often. As a clinician, I wear a t-shirt and shorts, and that's how I treat. I think the polo gives us a a challenge with patients and athletes. I'll share more later. But anyways, all right, on to the podcast. So, um, what are my tips for public speaking? I will say the largest venue I've ever spoke at. This was 2005, 2004, 2005. I graduated from undergrad, and for those of you who know my story, I was illiterate till I was 18. Wrong crowds, wrong environment, all the above. And I barely passed school only because I had teachers who really saw something different and they really want to give me an opportunity, and that was amazing. And in college, I completely flipped, and I went from like zero effort to 177,000% effort. And so in undergrad, I won an award called the Outstanding Graduate of the Year. So it's basically at San Diego State, I don't know, there's like, I don't know how many thousands of students, I don't know, 20, 30,000, 40,000, whatever the number of students are. And of the graduating class, there was 10,000. And they select one student to represent the actual graduating class. So I don't know if I would call it valedictorian, but it's somebody who has the grades and effort and everything else, and who's making a big impact on the school. So I earned this award, and I was very grateful. And when they gave it to me, I said, "Okay, great. So like, what do I need to do?" And they said, "You have to be prepared to speak to 10,000 people." That was one of my toughest spotlights that I ever had to do. I've never spoken to 10,000 people before, and I think I had like 20 minutes to deliver a speech. But the coolest part for me was that, for those of you who know, I was raised by my grandma, and my grandma, she I was a big factor in just getting me through school, paying for like basic food and clothes just to get me to survive. And she was there at the graduating ceremony, and for her, it was the biggest thing. And the thing that she cared about the most was not that I was in front of 10,000 people, is that I mentioned her name during this event, and she just started bawling. I remember mentioning her name and giving her credit, and that was like the biggest thing. And as a parent, I realized that more and more. So, all right. So, what are my tips? From going from 10,000 people down to I've done CEU courses at 100 people, to mentorship classes, to, I think recently our Kickstarter course was like 30 something to 42 people. So I've done it virtual, I've done it in person. So what works? Every single one of you has done it in some capacity, right? And you actually do public speaking every day in front of patients and athletes. If you're a student, you do it in front of your teachers. If you're a veteran physical therapist, you've been doing it for a while. And some people are really good at it, and some people need to work really hard at it. And I would say early on, I had to work really hard of it. I was really obsessive about how I present myself, and I really had to change the view of, well, this is my way, to adapting that to my environments, to the patients I work with, to the people I adapt, everything from my body language to hand gestures to, I mean, there's so many ways you can do this. And so I've never taken a formal class, but I have studied public speaking at length for quite a number of years, and something I'm very passionate about. And I think that if you like my content and you like the way I present, or you like my energy, or you like whatever it is that you like, you're drawn to this podcast, it's everything I implement. And I'll share that with you today so you can have some success too. So 4 tips today. The first one. All right. So I think you have to understand that when you work with a patient athlete, your main goal is to help somebody achieve an outcome, right? It's not to improve their knee pain or get their flexibility. It's to get them to do something, right? Like whether it's play soccer or tennis or go for a run or play with their grandkids. There's an outcome associated with it. And so the minute that you get obsessive about the knee mechanic that is going to improve the knee pain, you lose sight of what the main goal is, which is the outcome. So how close are we to the outcome? How close are we to the outcome? I don't care what your knee valgus is. How close are we to the outcome? And when you stay focused on that, you can always see the end goal, and you keep that person focused. So that's like public speaking. That's how I treat it. So my end goal is the thing that I've determined that is the number one priority for them to get at the end of this course. So for you, it's, what are the 4 things that you need to master in order for you to improve your clinical outcomes and your public speaking skills inside your community? There's only 4 things I need from you. So if you're working towards an outcome, understand what the outcome is. What's the one thing, 2 things that you need your audience to do? Maybe you're doing a workshop on, I just recently did one on ACL injury prevention. What if you're doing one on shoulder pain, whatever it is? So at the end of it, what's the most important thing that your audience needs to get out of this? And it's not the exercise. Please do not. Physical therapists are obsessive about exercises. That's not even the solution. It has nothing to do with the outcome. What is important is that your patient, your athlete, understands the simplicity of how easy it is going to be to get to where they want to go. And it has nothing to do with the outcome or the exercise. It has to do with what is needed for you to achieve 0 pain within 4 weeks so you can run your half marathon. That's the outcome. Now you work backwards. Okay, by week 3, I need this, week 2, week 1. So when we do public speaking, you have to figure out my one takeaway. So today on the injury prevention seminar, I had an hour to deliver this to law enforcement agents. And my number one thing, and believe it or not, it wasn't exercises. So the number one thing I wanted to get across is that when people are in law enforcement, they have high stress, high stimulus. It's a hard job. And most people, they always want to ask, well, what's the best exercise for back pain? What's the thing that I need to be able to, not have this discomfort with my duty belt or whatever it is? You're already too late. The goal is, how do we keep you injury free? That's the outcome, right? You're asking me, how do I manage something? I'm already 10 steps behind that and saying, I can conquer that. But what I want is, once I get you there, how am I going to get you out? Because right now it's not working. That's why you're in the hole and you have back pain, because you haven't figured out the other stuff. If I don't forget the other stuff, you will always have back pain. And people need to understand that at the root level. It's the number one thing they have to understand. So if I'm doing a talk on injury prevention, I'm not talking about exercises. I'm talking about high level, what are the things that they need to make sure that they stay injury free, not the exercises. What's the outline for them? So one of the biggest things I talked about was um, uh, uh, a green, yellow, and red light system. So if you heard this before, digest it again. I have a green, yellow, and red light system. If somebody has pain with running, walking, whatever it is, and it only happens during that, but it stops after they've uh, stopped the activity, and it doesn't present to the next morning, that's a green light. Go ahead, continue on until they get what gets worse or get some help on the back end. Now, a yellow light is if they have pain during the activity and they have pain afterwards. So I have pain during the activity and after. That's a yellow. Be careful. Proceed with caution. A red light is you have pain during, after, and the next morning. I'm telling you, that's not a good thing. That's going to last you on average probably about 3 days. If it lasts more than 3 days, it's going on to 14 days. If it goes on 14 days, it's going on to 6 weeks. So there's a cascade of events if you don't learn how to manage your own injuries. That's way more important than the hip exercise or the back exercise, because that one exercise will only fix their temporary problem. I like to give people frameworks. And if I can give them that framework, they can be independent, which is what we profess as a profession. So I wanted them to walk away with, when do I need help? And how do I stay injury free during that time? So I give them the green, yellow, and red light system so they understand at the highest level, injury is preventable. A traumatic injury, repetitive overuse trauma is 100% preventable as long as you know how to manage it. And that's the thing that most of the public doesn't know how to. So when you teach them an exercise, you're bypassing the whole root of the problem, teaching them how to get out of their pain on their own, and most importantly, how to keep it away. And it's not an exercise they have to do 2 to 3 times a day. That's not it. It's their understanding of physical stress applied over time. So for me, I find out what is the number one thing and just be obsessive about it every time. And every 5 minutes, I was like, what are the green lights? What are the yellow lights? What are the red lights? Talk about something else, blah, blah, blah. What are the green lights? What are the yellow lights? What are the red lights? And by that time, they've already said it verbally to me 10 times. So across an hour, at the end of it, I said, tell me the most important thing, green, yellow, and red. Perfect. I did my job. I can walk away. I don't care about the exercise you're going to do on YouTube, because that's not only going to give you temporary pain relief. If you're looking for long lasting relief, you have to be able to manage yourself. So for me, that was my main thing. How do I get the outcome I want? What's the longest lasting thing I can do? So whenever you're public speaking, very, very critical. What's the one thing you want to carry away from it? Whether it's a meeting, whether that's a workshop, whether it's a large scale presentation, whether it's a one-on-one with your mentor or whatever it is, what's the one thing you want to do? And you know what the best part is? You say it right from the beginning. From the beginning, hey, here's the one thing I want you to take away from this. And when you do that, people understand, oh, there's a purpose to this. And you just stick to it. And by the end of the presentation, the audience is like, wow, that was great. Why? Because it was simple, because it was basic. And the people who do the basic things most consistently and make it simple for the audience will remember that. And they're like, wow, that was fantastic. When you overcomplicate and you give 5 exercises, you give 2 or 3 things to take away, and you ask, what questions do you have? And you got crickets, you're a bad presenter. There's no bad audience. It's just a bad presenter. And so the reality is that you can stick with it or you can just get better. And that's just the nature of it. So outline what's the end of it that you want to do. And I always work backwards. So what's the one outcome? Where am I going to say it? I'll open with it and close with it. And then I have frequent reminders throughout. And it just makes it easy for the attendee. They're like, wow, there's that one thing. That's all you needed. Fun fact, anytime you listen to a podcast, you're reading a book, the brain will probably remember less than 10% of everything you just read or listened to. So that's why I try and simplify what are my biggest takeaways for you, so that way you can remember, take one thing away from it. That's all it is. That's all you have to do. And when you do that repeatedly, you now have more tools in your toolbox versus trying to digest 5 things in the same podcast or 5 things in the same workshop. And you're like, I don't remember any of that. What's worse? So that's why you want to make it simple. So that's number one. So number one was what's the one thing they wanted to take away? Just focus on that. Okay. Number two, uh, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I can't tell you how many great presenters I've seen over time, and they sound like Charlie Brown. It's like just wah, 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 wah. It's very bland, very boring, no intonation, no body language. Like, give me something, talk to me, look me in the eye. And if that's not your personality, it's not about you. It's about presenting. It's about getting the audience what they want. Now, you can say, well, I delivered the education. Yeah, but the message is irrelevant. The outcome is the most important thing. So, regardless of your message, if it's boring and you can't engage, the outcome was pointless. Why did I even come to this? And you've had those professors. You've had those people teach you a CEU course. I've seen them in the past. Oh, phenomenal course on the tactical, technical skill. Horrible on the delivery of the message. What's worse? I mean, you take a course, yeah, you develop some skill, but man, that was painful just to be able to sit there and watch and be a part of that whole process. So I think that people, especially physical therapists, they focus on the outline and exact bullet points at the exact time, how they're going to do it. How about don't focus just on what you're saying, it's how you're going to deliver it. It's actually the most important piece. The mess is just icing on the cake, because if you can get people engaged, they're like, wow, I don't even know what you're saying, but I love it. And you get them to smile, their eyes are big, eyebrows are going up. You hear it and you just feel the energy. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so the biggest thing I tell people is I will choose pockets of the room and I'll just make eye contact. And someone's not paying attention to me, I'll just make eye contact, keep reading the room, going side to side, left to right. And when you can do that, it allows you to keep the audience engaged. And so your job is not to read from slides. The best thing you can do, have little things on slides, 2 or 3 bullet points, and don't even write a sentence. Just have key bullet points. What does that force you to do? Not read the slide and discuss what you want. And that's what most people want. People want an experience when they go to a workshop or an event. That's really what they're looking for. They're looking for, how's this person, what are they going to do to keep me entertained? What are they going to do to keep me busy? I'm going to learn something, but I also want to be, I want to have a good time during this process. So number one is to, what's the one thing they need to take away? Focus on that. Number two is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Be sure to read the room. Here's a word that I really love for public speaking. And most people say, well, like, you have to bring good energy. Energy is what you need. Energy is not what you need. You need to energize. And when you're working with people who are hurt, you're working with other physical therapists who want a skill, the thing that they need and want is for you to energize them about the topic. You having good energy has nothing to do with them being energized. So you have to learn how to energize your craft, your audience. You having good energy has nothing to do with the impact you have on people. So focus on the outcome. I need them energized, not you with good energy. So when I think about that, I'm always like, how am I going to be this like lightning bolt? How am I going to get them up, excited, passionate about it? And to be able to deliver that. I mean, even now on a podcast, right? Like, I hope you feel how passionate, how much I'm moving my hands and body right now, because I just love it and it's so important. And when people can feel that, that's why they stay. That's why they follow you. That's why they want to be with you. So they want to continue learning from you. So that's rule number two, or guideline number two. Number three, you got to tell stories. You got to tell stories. There's a couple books that are literally, I think it's like storytelling for public speaking. Don't quote me on the exacts, but when you are looking at anybody who's ever taught, it's because they can keep you engaged. And how do people keep you engaged? Is because they make it simple for you to resonate with or relate with, and that's through stories. And storytelling is a strategy in public speaking. And what it allows you to do is connect with human emotion, and people remember emotion over education or over topics. And when you connect and understand the story about my son, what I loved about what he did with the lemonade and with the book is that he just did it on his own. Now, he shouldn't have left on his own, but I didn't push him towards that. He was passionate. He believed that his artwork was worth $5 a page. And how do you say no to that, right? That's belief. That's him like bringing good energy and energizing the neighbors. You want to, it's $5, but if oh sorry, I see he said like $10 for the whole book or $5 per page. Well, that's a steal. He came up with that on his own. And you can understand that you picture a little kid walking around literally with holy hands to the little sister. And that helps with understanding the context of what I'm talking about. And when you're public speaking, I have to figure out what makes them tick. What's the topic? So I'll read the room. I'll deliver on a couple different topics. I'll see eyebrows. I'll watch them so that I can understand. You guys are not getting me. I just need more constant feedback. So I'm always seeking that anytime that you do that. So anytime that you can read that room, energize them, you also have to tell a story. Most people focus on the script, right? The thing that they spent hours on. But you know what's crazy? The less you focus on the slides, the more engaging you are. It's hard because you design an entire presentation because you've been practicing, you feel good about it. But at a certain point, you lose the umph, that you lose the strategy and how you're going to deliver it. The strategy is more important than the actual words. And so when you can use a good strategy where you're like, hey, here's my one thing I'm going to cover, and I want to be able to get help you understand that by the end of this, and you spread that throughout the presentation, and you deliver at the end, and you bring that together with stories, and you can help people understand that. They're like, gosh, that was a great presentation. There's great presenters that I've been mentored by, and I study them. And the biggest things they'll do, they're just themselves. They just tell stories. That's the best part about them, and it doesn't feel like a presentation. They're just talking. But those are the greatest presenters because they can get what the message is without making it boring. And so as you navigate, your own public speaking skills, the trick you're going to have to do is start structuring it less. And for a physical therapist, man, that is so hard. That is so hard. And just remember that as you tell these things and you share information with people, the message is not important. It's the outcome. What does it give them in the end of it? Now, not what you want to give anybody. It's what are they receiving? That's really what it is. Who cares? Nobody cares about what you're presenting. Nobody does unless it helps somebody else. That is the truth about public speaking. And if you're going to brag about yourself and everything that you've done and blah, 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 like that doesn't help anybody. But the minute you make it about them and how it's going to help their personal, professional life or their career, now they're listening and they can resonate with stories. And you tell them that's the one thing I want them to understand. And you make it energizing, engaging. Think about that. That's a beautiful, beautiful presentation. And it doesn't need to be long. I mean, it really just has to come down to what's your message you're trying to get across. So once you've mentioned the one thing you want to take away, you've realized it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you've told the stories. The last one is you have to understand you're going to mess up on a couple presentations, right? I butchered a ton. But today, I've learned from every single one of those. And every presentation, even today, I was like, gosh, that one little tweak would have just started off right. I wanted energy, a little slow clap from the beginning, right? Just get them up, boom, boom, boom. So when you do that, it helps the audience understand what you're trying to do, and they'll have fun with that. And when you're basically putting everything together, you'll never get better at your public speaking if you're not intentional about it. And so just because reps are not the thing. It's like clinical practice. The same low back treatment is not going to work if it's failed 80 times. It's constant integration and implementation from that. And I think you have to understand. So ultimately, you have to learn from each and every one and have fun. Even to this day, I mess up. But you know what attendees appreciate? Authenticity. So when you deliver a message, you're like, sorry, I messed up. Acknowledge it. Like, have fun with that. Nobody cares. They'd rather have a genuine person who's just being themselves and mess up a couple times than somebody who is super like OCD, had all the presentations, no emotion, stands up there, read every single line by line, and barely got the job done. Nobody cares about that. And you've had those professors, you've had those mentors. They're not impactful, but the ones who are impactful are the ones who just have been genuine and cared about the topic. And that to you is most important because it makes you feel a certain way. And then ultimately, how do you put it together? I think you have to practice daily with clients and patients and athletes. I constantly, with the PTs I mentor, I'm just constantly reading and refining. Did my message come across a little differently? Should I have done it this way? Should I have been faster on this, the delivery of this? But that's just me. I'm obsessive about it because I love when people get aha moments and I see it live. I'm like, oh. And so if you want to know the root behind that, so anytime somebody understands what I get and I see the eyebrows go up and they get it, I'm like, hey, what's the one thing that right now, just in like enjoy that moment. What just made you realize that a little faster? Like, what was it about what I said? And I like to learn from that because then I can instill that for other people down the line. So I am a sponge, just constantly taking in feedback by people's body language, their hands, their mouth, their feet, everything. And it gets more and more challenging. And when this world flips upside down and post COVID, there's so much more virtual components. That's a tough way to read your audience because everybody's staring at a screen. It's hard to keep you engaged if they can't feel that energy. And so when you think you're doing good, try some online stuff. It's a beast. It's a good time, but the principles stay the same. It's no different. They just can't feel it in the room. They have to hear it. They have to see it. It's all the senses put together. And that's what you're doing with the public speaking. Put all the senses together. So when you look at public speaking, you're doing it with patients and athletes on a daily basis. You have to understand that. And you just don't see it as that. It's a platform for you to work on your public speaking skills. Be confident, look them in the eye, shoulders back, a lot of hand movement, eye gestures, head tilt, body language, chest up, empathy, intonation, everything all about that. And every single patient and athlete is an opportunity. And that's what I'm really trying to do. And when you start to work with, complex or very highly skilled athletes, you better believe they're looking for a good public speaker because they want to be confident that you can deliver not just the message, but deliver on the outcome. And you have to earn it first. And that's the thing I've learned the most. And some of the things I've picked up from is I've picked up a lot from strength and conditioning coaches that like they're the term that happens with strength conditioning is called buy-in. The athlete has to have buy-in to invest months of time into a strength and conditioning program, maybe that they've never done or they're skeptical of. And so you have to have a lot of buy-in on why this program and what outcome it's going to produce for them. And so when you work with athletes who want like a very well-structured program, the way you present it is equally important as what's on paper because you'll never earn the right to run through a program if you can't even deliver the message on how it's going to benefit them. So you can do all the work on in the back end and have zero outcomes. Why? Because they didn't see the value of it. And that's what your patients and athletes will struggle with. And just because you can program, just because you can do the best exercise progressions, just because you can have the best manual therapy, you're not going to get a chance because you didn't even get a chance to dance. You couldn't deliver on the message. And so when you're working with athletes or whatever it is, it's very critical that you learn these skills because every session is that. It's an opportunity for you to practice. So that is my public speaking in a nutshell. If you attend any of my courses in the next 3 months, it'll kind of help put it together. And most importantly, how does that help your clinical practice? So for those of you on the mentorship group starting next week, a lot of the stuff we'll be covering, your outcomes. How do you improve your outcomes? How do you improve who you are as a clinician across a time span? How do you do it without just focusing on exercise? Exercise are going to get you so far. Manual therapy is going to get you so far because you don't have buy-in. Yeah, they might see the value in that. You get some outcomes, but they're short-lived. They continue having pain, and you blame it on them because they're not compliant. And you keep finding the best exercises and more manual therapy to solve the same problem. But what you're really not looking at is the outcome. Get them to understand the outcome. That's what a presentation is. That's what a treatment session is. So if you're really interested in that and you want to develop those things, there's two options for you. I'd love for you to join my mentorship program, and that's open enrollment. So whenever you want to start in, if you're not on my mailing list, join on there. Go to my website, find more information. But we meet once a month. I'll go over case studies. I'll go over the new skills and give you an opportunity to tell me your biggest challenges and what we need to do to fix them. So it's a lot of work. It is a ton of work. If you're not afraid of hard work and putting some effort into your own personal development, it's perfect for you. Second option is for you to take my strength and conditioning course, which is happening in like 6 weeks. This is recording in 2023, April, and we're going into May and June. And my strength and conditioning summit is for developing strength and conditioning programs. But your ability to communicate and convey how important this is and every step of it is just going to be equally as important as developing the program. So if that is where you are in your career and you're like, I'm tired of this other stuff, I want to get better, something's missing in my career, this is the big piece. And that's just your ability to convey the message that you want to get across, whether that's your patient, your athlete, your partner, your spouse, your boss, your mentor, whatever it is. It's very, very critical. It's a big piece and big part of my success to get to where I'm at today. And I want to be able to share that with you. So wherever you are, I hope that helps. I hope you guys are doing amazing. Life is amazing. You're staying healthy and fit and changing lives. So I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care.